Here I stand as a strong black man, having done all I can to please my fellow man. I don't understand why that knife is in your hand. After doing all I can as a strong black man, I'm gonna take my stand as a black man. I will do the best that I can as a black man. I stand on my own as a black man. I'm gonna sing my song.
Welcome to another episode of Black Man Heals. Say how you feel, brother. And I'm here with one of my favorite brothers, Jarel.
What's up? I'm back, Jarel. Once again, grad intern. And I'm excited to dive into our conversation today.
Yes.
I think this conversation is important. There's always talk on the internet and in our community about generational trauma and how trauma can be passed down from generation to generation to generation. So today I kind of want to focus on what generational trauma is, and how do we, as not even just black men, but black people in general, how do we acknowledge that trauma, that generational trauma, and how do we move, past it, acknowledge that it happened? How do we break those generational curses? And how do we set new foundation for, mental health, and how do we seek the services and the support that we need for that? So that's what today's episode will be about, and kind of focusing on that. I guess my first question here is, what is generational trauma? How do we recognize it? How do we know that our family has it? How do we know what it looks like?
It looks like customs and versus in in a lot of ways, especially when it comes to discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So my great grandfather was a sharecropper.
Yeah.
Which means that my mother was around that time where you beat people into submission. You do what I say. I don't care. I'm in charge or whatever. And that transitioned into me, basically genetically, and I did do my DNA. I am 86% African.
Congratulations to you. I have no idea what I actually am, but no, congratulations.
Yeah, 86%. So when you think about slaves coming from Africa to America,
yeah,
my great grandfather being a sharecropper, and my mother being pregnant with me, I'm in gestation in Alabama during the height of the Civil Rights Movement in 1964. No wonder I have anxiety.
You're right.
It's embedded in me genetically through my synaptic nerve system. That's where it comes from. But also the ability to stand and be courageous. All of that, I'm sure, comes from my ancestry too.
Right.
Never scared. But when we're talking about the trauma, the anxiety associated with everything that is connected to me throughout my generation and conception,
yep,
became who I am.
Yeah.
And then my mother acting upon the way, she was thinking that I want my child to have more than what I had growing up. That equated to materialism.
Right.
But it never equated to rearing the child and communication and being understood, because those same traumatic things that happened to her and the way she was raised was just passed down. So it's customs and genetics.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think there are a lot of ways that the black family raises children, or is a family as a whole, is because of the past, like slavery and whatnot. speaking less spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a slave master and an enslaved black person's, relationship. You're not supposed to speak. Or I think someone mentioned, I don't know how true this actually is, the way that we have to. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. The way how parents will always tell us to come in to that house because of the street lights and stuff like that. Because KKK, or the way that how we laugh and stuff and run away, or the way how we may not speak in certain situations and stuff like that. All of that could be results from slavery and even whoopings. It's like whippings is probably the biggest thing where it's like, black people whoop their children, but then you see white families, they don't really believe in whoopings, in a sense, because they didn't whoop their child or whatever it might be. And like you mentioned, like a lot of things where it's, I want your life to be better than mine is always materialistic stuff. Like, oh yeah, I want you to go on this. I want to be able to afford for you to go on this field trip. I want for you to be able to have, new clothes for school. But it's never, let me sit down and understand like what my child is going through and
what do you need from me?
Right. Communicate with them, or even with a partner or whatever it may be, sitting down, just having those conversations, because the dynamics is different. So it's like, yeah, they take the things that were done in the past and never actually fixing it. Because
where is the why? I'm okay with if I did something wrong and you discipline me for that. But you need to create an understanding. What happened? What did I do?
Right.
And why are you disciplining me? So then I can understand if I want to engage in that anymore. But you just beat fear into me. So then when I was molested, I ain't say nothing to you. I don't even want to have no conversation with you, like, at all, because I don't know what's going to be my fault, what's not. Do I have a voice? Do I tell the truth? Do I lie?
Yep.
I'll never forget being disciplined for lying. And then after that, I said, well, I get it from you. There's no Easter Bunny. There's no Santa Claus. You've been lying since I've been on this earth. No Tooth Fairy. But and now all of a sudden you gonna beat my ass because I lied though.
You lied one time. One time. Like, did you eat that cookie? That wasn't even that big of a deal for you to whoop me because I ate the cookie. Like,
exactly.
What is it? But it goes to show that like people do not think of children as humans, that they're these beings who have thoughts, opinions, voices. Like they don't think of them as a whole. Because you cannot be mad at a 5-year-old who has been on this planet for 5 years because they don't know how to manage their emotion, when you are 35 years old and you also don't know how to manage your emotion. So now you're mad at this child, and it's your responsibility to have taught this child how to articulate if something is going on and stuff. Where did that come from? How did they do that? Because maybe, once again, it could have been something that happened way back when, where you weren't even allowed to express these emotions and have the ability to articulate that. So what happens is, my great grandfather, passed it down to his kids, who passed it down to his kids, who passed it down to my grandmother, who passed it down to my mother, who passed it down to me. And it's kind of like, no, it stops here. I understand. I didn't like it when you did it to me, so why would I do that to my child?
The grandparents get it retrospectively because they do all of that and more to their kid, but then when their grandkid comes, they don't do it. And I had to have that conversation with my mom, like, did he just tell you that? Because you would have slapped my teeth down my throat. And I can't believe he just said that to you. And she'd be like, well, and one time I did ask my mother, I said, Mama, you used to beat the hell out of me.
Right.
For these things. And I think these kids are out of pocket. They're just running. Your grandkids are out of pocket and you don't do anything. She was like, well, I can just send them back home to their mother when I'm tired of them. As far as you, it was nowhere to send you. You were mine. So I had to have that control. But with my grandkids, I get tired of them. I can just send them back to their mom.
But I mean, I feel
That
like
ain't no reason.
that's not a good reason. It's not a good reason at all. And a lot of parents do say that. A lot of parents say that, and it's like, well, that doesn't make it right. Like you could have came up with a different mechanism.
There was nothing. She didn't want to take accountability.
There was absolutely nothing. It's like because when things did come out, black people, black families didn't believe in it. Like, no, why would I do that? Just whoop them. Like, that'll do it. Or it makes way for a sneakier child to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, because you're going to find a way.
Yeah, because, I mean, well, you whooped me this time. Now, y'all got caught. But I know how to do this now without getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to do it a different way, and you're not going to catch me at all. Like, so it doesn't solve anything. Whooping doesn't solve anything. That's a temporary fix, you know. But so what else do we do to get out of those bad traditions and customs, as you mentioned, to even, you know, move forward when it comes to, you know, breaking these generational traumas?
Well, see, a lot of it, but people get confused between fear and respect.
Huh?
You don't have to make me fear you for me to respect you as an authority figure in my life. Now that came from generations of slavery and everything else, you know, and it was put on a black man to be feared the most in the household. Wait till your father come home. You know, the mother in a two-family relationship, most often the father would be the aggressor. Like when your daddy comes home, he gonna whoop you. Well, the father don't always want to be the one that look like he beat the hell out the kids, you know, whatever. So what's going on? My mother tried that, but my father used to come in the room with us. Well, he's dead now, so she can't do anything about it. But he would come in the room and say, I'm not whooping you for that. He was like, so, you know, they were separated and she would call him over. And he was like, so, you know, it is what it is. Don't do that anymore. Your mom is overbearing at times, you know, but you need to look sad when I leave here. Like, you really got in trouble. And I was like, look sad, I am sad because you're not taking me with you. Like, I'm trying to go.
You're like, this is not an act.
Exactly. I'm trying to get the hell out of here. I thought you came to pick me up.
Now I really am going to cry. You gave me something to cry about.
Exactly. You about to leave me here, so you gonna say, yeah, she crazy, but you know, well, you still got to stay here.
You can't come with me.
So yeah, I just think that could have been a different conversation, but the dynamic was different because he wasn't my biological father, and he always felt like my mother would take me away from him like she did my dad, and he would never have the chance. So that was the dynamic of that. But my point in using that was those conversations need to be had. Like, nah, I disagree with that or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in front of the child, because we can be manipulative and pit one against the other. But I think, you know, being on the same page of what that looks like, you know, because I can say my mother loves me, but she's not capable of loving me the way I need it. And that is okay. Right. But she has to understand that she's not capable. As well, because parents, just like parents think fear and respect is synonymous, they also think that providing and caring and being understanding is synonymous.
Yes, I do.
No, you provide food, clothes, and shelter and all of that, and I'm really looking nice in your jail. You know, like, this is a nice prison. I'm in prison in my thoughts, emotions, and everything else, but you dress me really nice, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. I look good on the outside.
Exactly.
On the inside,
I'm a mess. And I'm a mess because of your customs and the things that you choose to do to make me respect you, but all you did was instill fear in me.
Yeah, and like you said, there is a thick line between the fear and respect, and people want to put, like you said, put that fear into someone to have them respect them, which is what white people did to many communities, is establish that fear factor in them. To, you know, this is a sign of respect. It's like, well, no, I don't actually respect you. I mean, I'm just a little kind of scared that you're gonna do something, but you know, that respect is not there, and it won't ever be there for you. So it's and so this is navigating to like another conversation, but that's why parents who are doing now the gentle parenting, they're I appreciate it in a sense because it's sitting down and understanding what your child is going through and talking to them. To going back to what you mentioned, like the why. Why am I being punished? Why are you doing this? With gentle parenting allows those conversations to happen without having to use that force or that fear to instill inside their children. Is establishing that line of respect and saying, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation. Why did you act up in school today? Oh, because, Timmy, was bothering me and took my paper and whatnot. So I, was just yelling in the classroom. Do you think that was an appropriate thing to do? Is to start yelling in the classroom? Why didn't you raise your hand and tell the teacher like X, Y, Z? That she never really does anything when I do it the first time and da 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 da. And it's like having those conversations. You can establish like one, what your child is going through, and then two is let your child, open up to you and allow you to, actually build this relationship and that mutual respect for you without having to, make them feel like they're lesser or anything like that. That's why I think a lot of kids are like, like your grandparents and whatnot. Like, they don't have to show them respect. They don't respect me. So why should I show them any respect back? Like, no, you treat me like trash and you want me to come into this family reunion and act like you didn't just cuss me out and slap me in my face 3 seconds ago. Like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. So it's like the respect pieces are like damaged within our community sometimes.
Absolutely. And, it makes me think about the stop, drop, and roll concept when you're taught how to, if there's a fire. It's stop, drop, and think. Dig into the depths of your soul and understand where these actions you're getting ready to display are coming from. Because a lot of times I think we would actually refrain from some of the decisions we make, especially when it comes to disciplining or when it comes to even speaking, out of anger. Just like, where is this coming from? Is it even worth it? What is this going to solve? Right? Because you're right. It's just going to make you become sneaky.
Yep.
That's when I started smoking weed in high school. Yes, peer pressure, with my friends, they had it. But it was an escape for me. Like, okay, I can just be high because when I'm high, I don't give a damn about, nothing what nobody really saying or whatever. And then you sober up and you got to face the same thing. So you just rather be high again. You know what I'm saying? And I just think that the conversation need to be had. I'm not saying that every time I was disciplined that it was unwarranted or not deserved, but I think conversations around what I did, why I was punished or whatever would have been so much more helpful, regardless if I was the type of child who would have pushed the envelope and did it anyway.
Right.
But at least the conversation would have been had.
Yes.
And I don't think it's enough of that. It's ran like a prison. It's ran like a plantation.
Yes.
And parenting shouldn't be that. Now, it should not be a lack of that. When we look at, and I heard someone saying, I'm not making light of this or condoning violence, but they was like, some of these white parents need to whip the school shooter off them kids. So there's a fine line between what discipline looks like, because there are some kids, you can beat the hell out of them and they still not going to stop. So my point is, you have to figure out what is making that child tick.
Yes.
So that you can come up with a strategy that they ain't always ticked off.
Yes.
So you got to figure out, and I had to do that for myself. Like, what makes me tick? I know what ticks me off, but what makes me tick?
Yeah.
And I had to learn that with my mom. I know what pisses her off. So let me be very strategic with how I move around her, what I say, what I do, so I don't push her to her slave mentality that she just do weird stuff that I don't even understand.
Yep. And I think once again, you made a good point about like figuring out what makes you tick. Like what makes you angry, what makes you sad, what makes you do all those things that like will make you either like harm somebody or do anything bad or even do something good. Like what are those things? And I think a lot of times we don't sit down and have those reflection pieces within ourselves to figure out, why am I doing the things that I am doing, and how do I stop doing the things that I'm doing? Because a lot of stuff is taught. A lot of that stuff is ingrained inside of you that you just don't know when you learned it. But once again, it can come from a family member. It can even come from friends. Like they say, like you are most like the 5 people that you hang around. So whoever those 5 people may be, you may have learned traits from them that are deeply rooted inside of you that you have to unlearn as you get older, or as you recognize them, or as someone mentions them to you. And I think that's one way how you can break some of those generational traumas, is just recognizing the fact that, like,
I'm triggered in this moment, and what caused that, and what is it connected to? Because a lot of it is connected to genetics, your childhood, and your fight or flight response that you've learned. And it's hard to unlearn those things.
Yes.
Take it from me as a cusser. It took a lot for me. Like, okay, use your vocabulary, use some different words, use another way to express yourself instead of just like, fuck you, or whatever, and just go totally off. I think that, but I find a different way to say it.
Yes.
But I'm going to say the same thing, and you're going to figure out that that's what I'm really saying to you. And then sometimes I just have to say it because that's some people, that's all they understand. But the point of this conversation is that at the end of the day, you should make choices and decisions, and your actions should be something you can live with after they're done.
Yes.
If you start having a second thought about something, you probably shouldn't still do that.
I agree.
After you've already whipped the child and go back and be like, well, I'm sorry. No, I got webs on me from your switches. We had to go pick a switch off the tree in the backyard and bring it in the house. And I used to try to get a certain kind, so it wouldn't flex as much, or break. And so my mother would just braid them together. Like, okay, well, you
braid them together.
Braid them together and put rubber bands on the ends, because I couldn't pick the right type of switch. Now, that's some slave stuff right there. Gosh. And I don't know if you remember bolo bats. It was a little paddle, and it had an elastic piece on it with a ball on the end, and you had to paddle it.
Oh, yeah.
We called them bolo bats. My mother could hear that pop 3 rooms away. Oh, bring me that paddle. And she would save those too when I was little so she could use it as her paddle. This is supposed to be a toy. I don't even want to play with this shit no more now. Don't buy me another bolo bat when you go to Kmart on the blue light special. I don't care if they got 10 for $1. Do not bring a bolo bat in this house.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no.
So you talk about trauma? Let somebody pull out a bolo bat.
Oh my God.
I'll probably just go off.
Yeah, I think for me is recognizing that I don't like to be yelled at. I was just having this conversation with somebody. I was like, I don't care what your tone is. I don't care if you have a sarcastic tone. I don't care if you have like a demeaning tone. I don't care what your tone is. But if your voice go over the normal indoor speaking voice, you have now triggered me, and now I'm gonna tell you, don't yell at me. And if you continue to yell at me, now you have entered into the red zone, and now I am triggered, and now I am about to go. Now I have something to say. Now we are now in a full blown yelling match because I do not like to be yelled at. My parents yelled at me, don't like it. Didn't like it when my grandparents yelled at me when they did. Didn't like it. Don't like it when teachers yell. Something about yelling and me don't mix. So, which is why most people are like, "Oh, you're very soft spoken," because I don't like to yell, and I tell them,
and I don't want to be yelled at,
and I don't want to be yelled at.
Do unto others.
Like I don't do it. I don't like it. So like when someone is like, "Oh, you're you're speaking over me. I'm only speaking over you because you spoke over me.
I'm trying to be
and I'm
heard.
trying
Yeah.
to this is not working for me. This is not working for me. So it's like, yeah, it's being aware of what the things, your triggers, and being aware of the trauma that may have happened in times past, and how do you move forward with those things and heal from them? Because I mean, as men, it takes time for you to actually sit down and be aware of that and acknowledge it and reflect back. As we mentioned throughout many of our episodes, is like sitting down and just truly understanding who you are as a person and just saying, I don't like it when people do this. And I hate it.
And I think in wrapping up the conversation, we have to look at how society has depicted the black man throughout history.
That's true.
They knew that he was the strongest person, so that was buck breaking. So they were raped, beat, emasculated, and everything in front of who? The black woman and everybody else who was watching. And then that came down to now, because of systemic racism, the socioeconomic factors or whatever, in order for us to help you as the government, the black man can't be in the home.
Yep.
So then they removed the black man from the home, which gave the woman a sense of, well, I don't need no man. Yes, you do. You made the baby with one, whatever. We need connections, as we talked about in a previous episode, and to be able to relate to people and things of that nature. So the man often feels like it's best if I don't say anything, because if I do, I might go off.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be some consequences or whatever. So we have to find a balance in between, no, black man, you don't totally shut down and wait until you just ticked off. What really does make you tick and what ticks you off? So you can find that balance and try to control those situations when you're in them, because we can't control what life brings to us, but we can control how we respond to it and how we handle it. And then that's going to have to be a filter, filtering out things and making sure that we're addressing things. They call it pick your battles, but addressing things that need to be addressed and everything else leave alone. And I had to learn that, because once I got out of my mother's prison and got my voice, nobody could do anything. I don't care the least little thing, I'm going in. Because it's like no one's ever going to do anything else to me that I don't want.
Yep.
And so I had to find balance. Now I've learned, like, I'll just walk away or I'll just call the police, because I have too much to lose.
Yep.
I've built all of this and I'm not going to lose it because I lost myself in that moment as a result of your ignorance, disrespect, or whatever the situation is. No, I'm going to stay with the same energy that I had when I entered into this space.
Right.
And whatever I need to do to maintain that energy will be done. If that's call the police, if that's for me to say the F-U word, whatever it is. And even if I don't say that out loud, I can say it in my mind and leave the space. But whatever it is, it's about protecting yourself so that you don't go overboard, and considering all the things that you have done, and you are working so hard to be the best black man that you can be. Don't let anyone take you back.
Yeah. And I think also, knowing that you don't have to live in that trauma from the past.
Mm-mm.
Anything that you recognize that may have stemmed from any of our ancestors, you don't have to accept. You don't have to, you do things that were done. You don't have to whip your children. You don't have to be stoic. You don't have to feel the pressure of like having to solely have to provide for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There's community, so you could rely on other people. I think it's just, recognizing that times have changed and that we have grown as a community, as people, that you can establish what you want and not have to live in that trauma that we have had for so many generations. And just recognizing what those triggers are to you and for you, or to your family members, or to your friends and whatnot, and try to establish healthier ones so you don't have to live in those. I mean, I think it's going to take time.
Yeah,
But I think it's going to take more conversations. I think it's gonna take the whole community to figure that out. I mean, we already made one step forward and got out of the fact of, most of us are now acknowledging the fact that therapy is something that we want to do, and it's not this really bad stigma around it. It's still a stigma there, but more and more people are willing to accept it and engage in it and go to it, and people are finding things to help cope with different situations that happen in their life. So I think it's once again we don't have to live in our past traumas. I mean, we are our ancestors' greatest dream, so we might as well continue to be that dream that they wish that they would have. And that does not mean living in that trauma that they had to suffer through. They did what they had to do so we can have the things that we currently have now. So we need to take advantage of it and not live the same ways that they did to move forward.
I agree. And in closing, I would say that you don't have to understand, or agree with anything I say and do, but you're going to respect me.
Yes.
And we can flip that. I don't have to understand, or agree with anything that you say or do, but I'm not going to disrespect you as a result of it. Because trust and respect is earned.
Yes, it is.
And once you break that, you don't get it back.
You don't
get it back. So as a Black woman to a Black man, I have to be able to try to understand where you're coming from, create a welcoming space, understand the history. And I think we could talk about in another segment, men who are returning citizens also. Once you've been institutionalized, and you come back into this same community where you offended around all of these same people or whatever, where is the understanding? Where is the respect? And where is the support?
Yes.
So we have to learn to agree to disagree and ask questions about stuff we don't understand and offer explanations when we feel misunderstood.
Yeah, I will. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And we hope you tune in to the next episode of Black Man Heal. Say how you feel, brother. Thank you, Jarel.
No, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode, brought to you by SOAR. Don't forget to visit our website at soar-nonprofit.org to download the Black Man Heals Workbook, a resource designed to help you dive deeper into your mental health journey with thoughtful prompts and exercises. Embrace the power of vulnerability and keep striving to be the best version of yourself each day. Be sure to join us on our next episode, and until then, take care and stay at peace.